Hi everyone, welcome to Getting Jiggy with Jiggy. Today we're going to talk about MetaQ. It's a custom meta for the VirindiTank plugin for Asheron's Call. And it allows you to do a couple of things. You can create a group of characters and queue up and automatically run multiple metas back to back. Now, right now, this meta has been designed for use by my specific allegiance. There are navigation routes which make use of our allegiance hometown of Zykal, and the rally point between metas is set to our mansion. Now, if there's interest from others, I'm more than happy to put together a version that's more generic. Just hit me up and let me know. Now, there's a few prerequisites for this particular meta. You require VirindiTank, utility belt, and in utility belt you have to have vital sharing turned on, mag tools, mag filter. And I also highly recommend that you have Chaos Helper, as I've created a config file for it, which makes running and managing the meta a lot easier. It gives you various buttons for all the different controls. Now, you can run this via text commands if you prefer, but the Chaos Helper thing makes this a lot more convenient. Another recommendation I have is MetaF, which is a small standalone utility that converts meta and nav files into a format that can be more easily edited with a text editor like Notepad++, and then converted back. It makes editing and modifying meta files for VirindiTank much easier than the in-game method, but for this video, I'll do all the configuration in game. Now, links to all of this information is all detailed in the README file, so make sure you check it out. And most of what I'm covering here is outlined there as well. Now, I would like to make a brief disclaimer before we get started. The first is that the quest metas that I've included with MetaQ are designed for the end of retail experience or version of Asheron's Call, as they are popular luminance-based quests, and they make use of the town portal hub and a few other things that are part of end of retail. Also, make sure that your server does not have a rule against things like unattended macroing, as MetaQ automates everything for you and your characters, and it can be run unattended. Now, the first thing we'll go through is just the files themselves. Open up the zip file, and there's a couple of different things in here, including the README file. You will want to take the various MET files that are in here and copy them into your VirindiTank folder. Now, for me, that's in games, plugins, VirindiTank, and then it's all in here. I also have a decal plugins folder where some other stuff is as well. So that's all of the .NET files. You want to copy those over. I already have them in my VirindiTank folder, so I'm not going to copy them over again. There's also a Chaos Helper folder here, and there's two files in here that you'll want to copy over to the Chaos Helper directory as well, and make sure that they're dropped in there because you'll need to use them in game. And the other thing to watch out for now, I'm assuming at this point, if you're running this, you're already familiar with installing various plugins. Now, if you are not, just make sure that, for example, if you're installing Chaos Helper and you're following the instructions for that, it's pretty simple. You just export and put the files wherever you keep your plugins, but you want to, and then you go into decal, click add, click browse, and browse to the DLL file. The thing to watch out for, though, is you want to right click on it and go properties, and make sure down here on the bottom that there isn't a little box that says unblock. If there is, click it, hit apply, and OK. Windows likes to do that for various different files that you download off the internet, and they can block some of that functionality. You'll usually get an error when you go to try to add it into decal. Now, once you've got all of those files in place, we're going to go ahead and launch Asheron's Call. So I've already got a client running here. Let's clean some of that UI up. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open Chaos Helper. And from the config file here, I'm going to pick the MetaQ config and click load. You'll also want to make sure that the chat command box here is blank and you've hit set. You can also hit save defaults if that is okay. This is all you're really using Chaos Helper for, so that it'll automatically load this and clear the chat command box when you start up your Asheron's Call client. You can also pop out the individual tabs that are up across the top by just clicking on them here. They'll open up in their own window. Now, the first one that I want to go over, actually, before we get into that, let's go ahead and open up VirindiTank itself. You'll want to make sure that from the drop-down list, you have picked MetaQ. So I'm going to grab that. And I already have this my enabled and running. But what you'll do is first go into Meta and scroll down to the setup state, which is towards the bottom here. The first rule that's here, it's an always condition. You'll just click on over here. This is if you want to use the Nexus crawl quest. You want to make sure that you indicate which of your characters has a tie to the Nexus dungeon, specifically the surface portal that's inside at the drop, and indicate whether or not it is a secondary or primary portal tie. There will be a message that states when you start this particular queue that it'll mention, hey, this is your character that's supposed to have it. You'll need to have them part of your group in order for this quest to run. Now, if you don't care about running the meta queue, you don't have to touch any of that. Sorry, if you don't care about the Nexus crawl, you don't have to touch any of that. Now, the other thing that you can do is, in addition to the meta queue itself, you don't have to edit anything for the individual metas for each of the quests. However, if you want to run those on their own without using MetaQ, you can. However, to do that, you will need to do a few other things. You will want to click on Meta after you've loaded that particular. Going off and doing this thing because I had already had this enabled. And you will want to, up at the top, there's the settings up here. And the very first one is where you can define all of the characters as well as your loot profile. So mine right now are all set for me, and actually you'll be using my copy of these files, so you'll see my own character names in there. You'll want to make sure that you set all the various variables inside here so that you can run this as a standalone meta. If you wish to, if you're not going to be initiating it from MetaQ, because if you are, it handles automatically creating your group, which we'll go over here in a second. So going back here to my MetaQ, and so once I have MetaQ set up, and I've changed that, set up those two properties here, again, optional, but I recommend doing it, particularly if you're using the Nexus crawl meta. Once you have that, we can go ahead and turn this on. And again, you can do most of this stuff through chat commands. And in fact, if you type, and actually I have my chat window closed, so I'll open that up here and we'll expand it a bit. So you'll see it says for a list of available commands, type in #metahelp. Now, what I actually want to do is disable this for a moment because I had already started it. So let's just, I'll cover this here in a second, but I'm just going to do a quick restart. Okay. So the initial setup for this is the first time that you run it is going to be important. It will save most of the settings that you create here. And now, in fact, yeah, my guy here's, I started this unfortunately a little too early. So I'm going to go ahead and just shut this down. That should shut everybody down. Okay. So the way that this works here is you'll first want to click Set Group. Okay. Now, this will take every open client that you currently have on that PC, and it uses some of the utility belt functionality, and it sort of tags and groups everybody together and defines your group. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. You'll see that I'm basically saying the chat commands just with these buttons in most cases. Some of them are doing things a little bit more directly. Now, once this is done, he should come back and tell us that the group has been defined. You're supposed to anyways. Let's try this again. Oh, sorry. I know why. It's because I already did the shutdown. I'll just have to. Now, normally, what I'm doing here is not something you would ever have to worry about. It's just because I've been stopping and starting and monkeying around here a little bit too much. So let's start this again. Here we go. Now I can do set group, and it'll come back and it'll tell me that my group has been defined. There we go. So Werriker, Jiggi Mage, Allerganic, and Jiggiwatt. So that'll define your group. Now the next time you start up, that's saved. So if you want to redefine your group, hit set group again. But keep in mind that pulls in all of your currently open clients, whether or not they're actually, you want them to be part of the group or not. So be careful about that. The other thing that I'll do is I'll start the fellowship. So I'll go ahead and do that now. This is going to take anybody that I've added to that group, and they will add them to my fellowship. Now the last thing to do is the actual queue setup. Now once you get into here, you're going to want to hit Start Queue Config. That'll basically bring you into the menu and tell you what the chat commands are. I can hit View Queue, which right now is just, for me, it's Nexus Crawl, the 2 kill tasks. I can clear the queue, and you'll now see it's empty. I can now add or delete, in any particular order that I want, the various metas and quests that have been included with MetaQ. So add Virindi Rescue, Nexus Crawl, let's say Neftet, and View Queue. And there we go. It tells you what's in the queue. Now let's say, actually, you know what? I don't want the city of Neftet. I'm going to remove that. And I'll add in Apostate Finale. And I hit delete Apostate Finale. Wrong buttons. All right, so there we go. Add that. And Nexus Crawl. And UQ. There we go. So now I've redefined some of the stuff. I've added Nexus Crawl in here twice. And you can clear it again, restart, or put it in whatever order you want. Now when you're done though, you do have to hit exit queue config, and then all of the other controls will then start working. So at this point, you're pretty much good to go. And I'll show you that in a minute. You just hit start all. It will automatically load the meta and start all the other clients up. So right now, my other clients right now that I'm running, they are disabled. They do not have VirindiTank running right now. They don't even have the meta loaded. Or actually, they do, but they don't need to have it loaded. The meta here will take care of all that for us. The other controls that you have available to you are under the Controls tab. Now, keep in mind, most of these right now only work when you're running the MetaQ meta, and only as the leader. Now, if I want to change the leader under the config, I can select somebody else, and I can hit Change Leader, and it will set them as the new leader, and then basically demote the current client to just a regular team member. You can also auto start on and off. Now what that'll do is in between metas, when you're kind of at the rally point, it will stop the automatic advancement to the next meta until you hit the start next button under the controls tab. You can also reset VT. What this does is this meta takes a backup of all of your VirindiTank settings for each character, and in the event that there's any issues with any settings, your attack ranges, or anything else, you can hit reset VT. It will load that backup that it took and for every single group member, including the leader. Restart all will reset the meta queue from basically step one and just relaunch and restart it. So let's say something happens where some of your people die or get stuck, and you can't resolve it either manually or through some of the other controls that are available, you can hit restart all, and it'll just restart everything from the beginning. You can, under the controls, in addition to start all, which will start everybody up here in a second, you can do the start next, which we talked about. Call home is something you can do. So let's say that you ran a meta, one of your guys got stuck on a wall somewhere, or two people, and you don't want to have to go to those clients and manually bring them back to you to start before you start the next meta. You can hit call home, and it will automatically bring them, stop the meta that they're in, and then bring them back to the rally point to resume the queue. Hitting cancel, there's a couple of different commands, like the call home one, where it'll warn you and it'll say it's going to initiate the command in 10 seconds. You can cancel it at this point. There's a text command to cancel it, or you can hit the cancel button and it'll just stop what it just started or told you or warned you it was going to do. The load meta queue is just what it sounds like. It just loads it for you. So if I don't actually have to go to VirindiTank and pick the meta queue, I can just hit load meta queue and it'll do the same thing for you without having to open it up. And shutdown just shuts everybody down. It basically clears all of your settings, all your variables. It restores the backup of your VirindiTank profile settings that it took when it started up, and then just turns VirindiTank off. So that's basically it at a glance. So I'll go ahead and hit start all. And this will now go through and should automatically start everybody up and start making noise here in a second. There is a bit of a delay. Is my meta queue cleared? Interesting. Okay. What is it upset about? Okay. Let's see if we can fix this here. Oh, there we go. Enter the meta key config. Okay, my meta key is blank. Not sure what I did to undo that. It's the first time I've run into that. There may still be some little bugs here and there. If you do run into anything, please hit me up on Discord. My name is Jiggiwatt there. And that should have saved that. There we go. Now he's automatically starting. So it's basically set up here. He's going to auto start the Virindi rescue meta in 2 minutes. And let's see if I can go ahead and advance that now. There we go. Okay. Again, you shouldn't have to go manually monkeying around with most of this stuff. It typically just works. But again, there are some goofy bugs here and there. Just make a note if something doesn't work the way you expect it to, what you did, and I'll be happy to take a look at it and fix it as quickly as I can. So that's basically it. Now my guys here are going to buff up. They're currently running the profiles. They're running the Virindi rescue. All of my other guys are as well. And when they're done, they're going to go back to our mansion and wait for everybody to show up and then start the next one. So thank you very much. Again, if you guys have any questions or run into any issues, you can find me on Discord as Jiggiwatt. Thanks for watching, and remember, get your vassals spayed and neutered.